Hello and welcome. I am DEJI360. Nigeria is still grappling with a very serious security challenge, which is really tasking the country's security managers at the moment. Now, the month of October was marked mainly by developments associated with violent activities, including killings and kidnappings for ransom, social unrest in the form of protest, and labor action triggered by the harsh socio-economic circumstances in the country, as well as political activities. Now, the data is contained in the October 2024 Nigeria Security Report put together by a security risk management and intelligence consulting company, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. Now, that company is actually based in Abuja. That's the Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. The security firm revealed that data collected indicate that the country recorded a 51% rise in fatalities and 24.42% increase in abductions. That's for the month of October. Now, no fewer than 971 Nigerians were abducted across the country in October 2024. The breakdown also showed that the number of individuals killed increased from 1,022 in September 2024 to 1,545 now in October 2024, indicating an increase of 51.17%. Now, in terms of distribution across the country, the northeast and northwest regions were the most affected by security incidents, which account for 52.03% of the total incidents, respectively, whereas the southeast reported the fewest incidents at 7.78%. The revelation is coming amid the emergence of a new terror group, Lakurawa, in the northwestern part of the country, which has already killed 16 people in Kebbi State. Now, the security experts, have warned that the security situation in the country has actually deteriorated, stressing that it might result in more fatalities in Nigeria if the trajectory continues. Now, that's according to Beacon Consulting. Joining me now to dissect this report further is the Managing Director of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu. He joins us from Abuja. Dr. Adamu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. A very disturbing report, no doubt, especially at this time, in spite of the security operations being carried out by the Nigerian military, the Nigerian security agencies as a whole. Why are we still having this high incidence of insecurity across the country?
Thank you, DEJI, and I'm delighted to be here once again. The report is concerning. The figures are climbing, and you're right. Our security forces are doing a lot. In the last 2 months, they've increased the intensity of their operations, especially the military, where we've seen them killing especially bandit commanders and to an extent terrorist commanders in the northeast. But sadly, these military operations do not go to the root causes and the drivers of insecurity. In other words, the more they are killing them, the more new ones are emerging. And because of the size of Nigeria and the porosity of our borders, the threat elements are able to obtain their weaponry. They're able to sometimes even get additional boots on the ground, as it were, and they are able to get support in terms of funding and technical capabilities from across the border, and sometimes even to recruit locally from within Nigeria. So it's a case of using probably the wrong methodology or the inappropriate methodology to address the security challenge. Imagine a situation where you have a fire that should have, instead of a tripod stone, should have even 4 stones. And then instead, what you are doing is just using 1 stone to put the pot on the fire. That pot is not going to be stable. It's probably going to be falling. Where you are even able to keep it with your hand, you would need to rest. So that's the situation where we are seeing that military operation is just one component of what we need. The other components are more non-kinetic. For instance, policing is required. The military, in common military balance, what we say in security operations is take, hold, and rebuild. The military should take, then the other security components should hold, and then another set should rebuild. Border protection It's not the responsibility of the military. It should have been the responsibility of the customs or immigration. We're not seeing enough of that. Just between Nigeria and Niger, we have up to 1,400 kilometers of mostly unmanned borders, which allows them to come into the situation. The coordinating elements within our national security architecture that are supposed to put together the 29 or thereabout security agencies that we have are not doing very well in that regard. Gaps have been created. Interagency rivalry is still extremely high. And then the biggest one, the biggest elephant in the room, DEJI, is the cost of living crisis that we have at the moment. That cost of living crisis is predisposing more people to criminality, as it were. Just a few days ago, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria came up with a damning report where they said their wares are lying idle in shops. Nobody is able to buy them. So what it means is that they are going to reduce their workers. The economy is likely to face a stagnation. And the more companies and SMEs in particular are shut down, the more people will be sent into the labor market. And a significant number of them may be recruited by these bad elements. Then the last one is the environmental element. Climate change, global warming, and other consequences are also impacting the environment and leading more people to crime. So that's the reason why of the military operation you are seeing this increase.
Okay, let's quickly dive into some of let's dive into your stats now, and I just want you to talk us through some of these slides. You look at what the slide we have there. You have 800. For instance, the total security incidents, that's for the month of October alone. You cited 861. Could you talk us through some of these, especially those figures at the top?
All right. So just to give context and background, what we have is a database of security occurrences. Anyone who is familiar with maintaining a database knows kind of what I mean. We collect these incidences, we verify them, we collate them, we clean them up, and then we produce, we analyze them and produce some form of product out of them. The process of collecting, the process of collating, there is a global standard in intelligence where you verify, and then of course, once you verify, you now add it to your database. We've been doing this for about 3 years, and consistently every month we produce reports. We're not new in the industry. We're quoted globally. We've been quoted in New York Times, in Washington Post, and then locally by, I don't think there's any local media that hasn't quoted us yet. So we're well recognized in this field. And having said that, what we saw in the month of October is, like you rightly indicated, we recorded 861 incidents. And I must say these are the verified incidents. There are several others that have not been verified. What we do is now to analyze the report, and from that analysis, we got to know that 1,545 Nigerians were killed in the month of October 2024. Now, when we compared it with the killings in September 2024, it led to a 51.17% increase in the number of fatalities. Now, for abduction, in the month of October, we recorded 971 abductions. And when we compared it to the figure
Sorry, doctor, that is really concerning. I mean, to have this number of fatalities in just 1 month and then the total number of abductions, what some of us had thought is that, look, the security situation was getting better. But this is clear evidence that it doesn't appear things are getting better. If you could have 1,545 fatalities just for the month of October alone, and then 971 abductions. What exactly is going on here?
Yeah, like I explained earlier on, we're using the wrong methodology, as it were, to address the challenge. We're using only military force, and that military force has to be combined with other things. We need to limit the conflict. The reasons for the conflict will have to be addressed. There are several war situations going on in Nigeria across the 6 geopolitical zones, and we're attempting to use force to address those conflict situations. We need to do more than that. We need to do peace
Something
building.
I want you to talk about too, the top 10 fatalities by states. Borno is still leading, followed by Kwara. I'm surprised to see Kwara there.
Yes, Kwara has been quiet for a while, but of recent, we've seen emergence of criminal elements and other threat elements within Kwara state. So Kwara is an emerging situation, as it were. For the month of October, it emerged second. Previously, Kwara was extremely quiet. But like I said, Kwara has been affected by the several threat elements that exist in Nigeria. Katsina, I'm sure nobody will be surprised to see Katsina there occupying third position. For fatalities. The major threat element in Katsina are the bandits that have occupied about 8 local governments in those states, and they are continuing their operations. Of course, Jigawa is also a bit surprising because Jigawa has been quiet until the month of October. The reason why
what do you
Jigawa
think is going on in Jigawa? Why is Jigawa there now? What is happening?
The major reason for this are the safety occurrences that occurred. Now, the reason why we included those safety occurrences on our numbers is because of the human element within those safety. You remember there was a petrol tanker incident in Jigawa that exactly over 100 dead. In fact, there were claimed about 200, but because we could only verify 100, we documented the 100. Those factors are human factors. Yes, they are safety occurrences, but if they are preventable, and so we categorize. The next one is bandits. There is a situation of bandits that are active in those locations. Then, of course, Zamfara. I'm sure nobody too will be surprised about the inclusion of Zamfara. And then what follows that after that is Kaduna. I'm sure no one will be surprised too. And then the other ones are all what we know: Anambra, Lagos, and Adamawa.
And let me ask you. Let me quickly ask you about Anambra. The total number of fatalities there, 58. Could you shed more light on that, and of Lagos as well, which is 52? These fatalities now, were they as a result of banditry, terrorism, or just criminal activities?
So in Anambra State, it's a combination of the activities of secessionist group, especially the indigenous people of Biafra and the Eastern Security Network and their affiliates, as well as the armed conflict between them and the security forces. And then a few criminal gangs, especially militants and cult groups that have also been active in those locations. Lagos is criminal groups and cult gangs that have also been active. I think the AA and AE and a few other black acts and the others that have been engaging in tough wars over the period. And of course, criminal gangs that from time to time also operate. The majority of the incidents in Lagos are associated with those criminal gangs.
And this slide is just to explain to our audience so that they actually understand. I mean, there you have the comparison between September and October. Clearly, as you can see from the slide, security incidents are going up. Look at this, for instance, abductions in October was 807. In September now, 807, and in October 971. So look at the number of increase there, 20.32%, which is actually concerning. And when you talk about fatalities as well, for the month of October, 1,545 compared to 1,022 in September. And look at the percentage increase there, 51.17%. And then you have that of incidents. So that's just a comparison. Doc, Lagos State is, look, it's a very important city in this country. It's Nigeria's commercial hub. And if you continue to have serious security incidents here, there's no question at all that it will impact the economy. Could you just help us explain this slide a bit so that our audience understand?
All right. I mean, the most important thing is to note the developments over the period. If you notice the line, it kind of goes up and then dips and then goes up and then dips again. And so compared to other locations within the country, especially the urban centers where we have most of the security occurrences in the country. Lagos is doing quite well, actually, apart from this increase that we're seeing between September and October. And we could explain that to the Ember months, as it were. Traditionally in Nigeria, once we enter the Ember months, we start seeing an increase in criminality, both opportunistic and violent criminality. So we're hoping that that's the case. There's also a theory that suggests that every time a commissioner of police is changed in any state, you see an increase in criminality. Maybe again, that's another factor that is playing out. And then, of course, we can't run away from the cost of living crisis that we're going through at the moment. So these are maybe some of the reasons why we're seeing an increase. But I must say that of all the states in Nigeria, there is no state that has public security arrangement better than Lagos. Lagos has the best, the security trust fund that Lagos set up, the Lagos Neighborhood Watch, and then the arrangement that the state government has in terms of the civil service arrangement that supports this public security institute that I mentioned are also commendable in Lagos. So we're hoping that they, just like we've done, they also have this type of numeric presentation, and they are seeing this rise, and that they will respond to it adequately, so that by the next time we're doing this, we see a dip and a decrease in security occurrence.
Let's move to Abuja. Something very significant. We know Abuja had always had this problem of abductions. I mean, kidnappings happening there. But for the month of October, no abductions at all. Fatalities, well, not so high, but no abductions at all. Is this a sign that the new minister there and probably the new security arrangement in the capital city, everything is coming together and working for the good of the city in terms of security?
So I must say that no reported or confirmed or verified abduction. We received reports of several express abductions, and I want to emphasize this. In fact, it's so bad, those express abductions, that the Senate or the National Assembly did invite the minister, because incidentally, they wouldn't tell you this, DG, but some of them, their family members were victims of those express kidnappings. So even though it was not reported
now, these kidnappings happened along the expressway?
No. They are called express kidnappings because they are short time kidnappings.
Oh, okay.
So one chance is associated with express. There are types of kidnapping, and express kidnapping is one of the types of kidnappings where the period between the abduction and the release of the person is very short. Usually, they carry the victim in a commercial vehicle. Then between the place where they carry the victim and the place where they drop him, they collect all they can collect. And you see a moving vehicle, they throw the person out from the vehicle. It's very common in Abuja. It's called one chance, and a lot of it happens. But because it's very difficult to document and prove, we've not recorded them. But like I said, the National Assembly did invite the minister because of the frequency. A lot of them had their family members that were victim of this, and because we use global standards, as it were, to record incidents. Those instances that I mentioned did not meet our criteria, so we didn't mention them. I just wanted to make that very clear. The zero that you're seeing is not that it did not occur completely. It's because it didn't meet the standards that we have for including incidents. But information suggests that a lot of express kidnappings are going on in Abuja. Now, having said that, Abuja has 6 councils. The Abuja Municipal Council, where the center of government is, and then you have places like Gwagwalada, Buhari, Kwali, and several others. Now, a lot of the especially violent criminal occurrences are happening outside Abuja Municipal Council, and just like the map indicates, what happens in Amak, Abuja Municipal Council, are protests mainly, and then a few opportunistic crimes like break-ins, or people mugging and all of that. But the predominant violent criminality is happening in particularly Buhari, that shares a border with Niger State as well as Kaduna State, where bandits sometimes come in to abduct individuals or raid communities and locations. In the last few weeks, the security agencies have conducted a lot of operations just to raid those locations around Buhari and surrounding area of these criminal elements. What we see is there will be a lull, but because these operations are not sustainable, and don't be surprised, sadly, if in the next few weeks we see a resumption of the activities of those bandits in those locations.
And just because we're running out of time, very quickly now, I just want you to speak through the situation in the north central, northeast, and of course northwest. And in your report, you clearly indicated that that is where Nigeria's security challenge, the biggest part of it, that's where it really lies. So, it's the north is still where the problem is. And yet we have a number of military operations going on in the north. But just talk us through the situation in the northwest, the north central, and the northeast.
All right. So the northwest has taken over from the northeast, sadly. In all the parameters that we measure, you see that the northwest features more than the northeast. So for incidents, 34.15% of the incidents occurred in the northwest compared to 17.89% that occurred in the northeast, then followed by north central, which we saw 15.45%. If you add all of these three up together, we're talking of almost 80% of the occurrences among these three regions in the north. So only about 20% occurred in the southern half of the country. Now, if you go to abduction, that's even what is more concerning. Over 80% of the abduction incident was in the northwest part of the country. I repeat, 80% in just one region.
814 to be specific, 814, and that's really high.
Exactly. So it means if we're able to focus our attention, and DEJI, it's not rocket science. Criminology has told us the variances that you can take to influence abduction. There are three things that must happen in the crime triangle. If you can reduce the opportunity for the criminal or even increase the penalty or his desire to carry out that criminal action, you would have solved the problem, but we are not approaching this thing scientifically. Of course, like we said, 83% of abduction is in the northwest, followed by north central, that has, I think, about 7.21%, and then northeast.
70 cases.
So if you add all of this together, it means the incidents of abductions that happened in North are almost about 95%. Only about 5% happened in the southern half of the country. And then, of course, for fatalities, the Northwest had over 37%, followed by the North Central that had about 20, almost less than 30%. And then, of course, the Northeast that had about 7%. So clearly, the northern half of the country, or sadly, has more of these challenges, and effort should be concentrated. The political, socio-economic, environmental factors that lead to insecurity in the north are well documented, and those are the things we need to address if we're going to make a turnaround in this and reduce these occurrences, and not necessarily military force. Yes, the military force is important, but it's just one element out of those four stones that should hold the pot that is Nigeria.
Dr. Kabir Adamu, I'm afraid we just have to leave it there because we've actually run out of time, but thank you very much for coming on the program to explain all of this, and well done for the job you're doing.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and of course for the concern that you've shown. I hope that would kind of all come together and bring this to an end.
I hope so. Thank you very much. Well, that was the Managing Director, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu, who joined us from Abuja. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be talking about something else. Stay with us, don't go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.